Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Miracle Network's Wednesday meditation. So glad you're all here to share this time together. This week we have Nick Arandes, who will lead us in meditation, and then we have 20 minutes of silence. After that, we open it up for sharing, and we end at 10:45. Over to you, Nick.
Okay, well, good morning, everybody. And today we're just going to do the same thing we've always been doing in the past, which is to look. As I look at A Course in Miracles, A Course in Miracles is inviting me always to look. What the ego thought system, which is the identified mind with the individual, judges. And there's a significant difference. Now, judgments are needed here in order to function. In other words, for me to call this a cellular phone as a judgment, you see? But in reality, what we are in essence is, and that is beyond words. That's why A Course in Miracles refers to us, who we are is love, but that love is beyond words. So in this meditation, what we're going to do is basically to rest in the love that we are, not as individuals, but as essence. And what I will do is once I begin the meditation, I will lead you with words just to see, just to look at the mind. Because in the end, the freedom that we are seeking, it's already the freedom that we are, you see? And again, once I begin the meditation, it'll become crystal clear. So we begin now, and what we're going to do is I'll invite you to take a deep breath and just relax. And I'm going to close my eyes because it's the easiest way for me to just sort of be with what is being shared. Let go. When I mean let go, I don't mean you let go. It's just that since language is limiting, and that's why how we seem to communicate, in reality, when I'm saying letting go, what I'm saying is be, just be. Now, no matter what is going on in your life, no matter what is going on, you cannot not be. You simply are. Right now, you are being. Now, pay close attention. And when I mean pay close attention, I don't mean put any effort. It's just that I'm trying to do the best with the language. In this moment, in this experience of beingness, the only thing that could make believe that I am not at peace or that I am not happy is a thought. And I'm asking you to put this to the test. I'm not asking you to believe my words. Right now, life is, I am, beingness is. You can even have your eyes open and look around, but you are still being. Try not to be, and you'll realize it's impossible because beingness is what we are. It's all there is. As we rest in this beingness, or I should say, as we remain, because we cannot rest in it, we are. Any thought that appears in beingness, it's only that. That's what is referred to as looking. I'll give you an example to see how looking can turn into judging, and the beingness that we are always may seem to be overlooked. Let's say there's a thought about a concern. It doesn't matter what it is. If you look at the concern is not about the thought itself. The concern is that as a thought arises in beingness, instead of looking at it, which is what the Holy Spirit encourages to do, that's what forgiveness is. We judge it. How we do so? By interpreting it. Oh, look what could happen to me. Look what may happen. But you see, that is only taking place because there's an identification with the character, with the seeming individual, with this I, that thing, that seems that is the one talking. But beingness, which is non-dual, which is non-conceptual, we cannot be talked about, but it's your experience. Right now, you are resting in beingness. And the purpose of this, we're going to call it meditation, but it's not really a practice or anything. It's just simply a word that we're giving to this experience right now. Observe that you as beingness cannot possibly be disturbed in any way, shape, or form. As a body seems that way, but not as beingness. And meditation would be whether you have your eyes closed or your eyes open, whether you're driving, whether you're talking to someone, whether you're on the phone, whether you're watching television, whether you're taking a shower, doing laundry, walking in the park, going to the supermarket, you are always in that state of beingness. And the meditation would be looking without judgment, without interpreting, just simply observing. And that's how you remain in a state of meditation. Because the mind is not identified with our belief system, the mind is free to be. Now, the question that arises is, yeah, but if I do that, how do I function in the world? Well, it's because we're missing a mark. We do not function in the world. We are being functioned. And let's put this to the test. Are you choosing to breathe, or breathing is what's happening? Are you choosing to have your heartbeat, or your heart beating is what's happening? Are you choosing to hear, or hearing is what's happening? It's only when the mind identifies with the thought, I am an individual, that wants to take the thoughts and make them personal. Well, that's my thought. I thought that. I'm doing this. And that's the cause of all fear. But what if remaining beingness, we observe how life lives us? That is surrendering the mind to the Supreme. That is all that is asked of us, nothing else. And that's an invitation here. Notice that I'm not asking you to control thoughts. that would engage again the mind, and that'll distract you from the space in which you are right now resting eternally. In other words, it is not that I'm trying to practice to become still. It's that I am still, but because of habit, I engage, I say, I identified with thoughts. And the moment I come to the realization, oh, I am identified with thoughts, and I let go, then I return to the place that I never left. And because I, through habit, I engage with a thought, and then I let go, it seems as though I am practicing. But in reality, there's no need to practice being. All we're doing is observing how easily the mind wants to identify with thinking. And we are inviting to just be. As we rest in this space, that's really, quotation marks, the goal, which is really a goalless goal. I'm not asking you to do anything. The Course in Miracles never asked me to do anything. That's the paradox. The mind wants to do something. It seems like it wants to do something to get to. Call it awakening. Call it be still. It doesn't matter. And yet the Holy Spirit is inviting us all the time just to be. He's always whispering in our ears, just look with me. And at the beginning, the mind asks, but how do I do so? And the Holy Spirit says, oh, it's very simple. Let go of the way you are perceiving, the way you are looking. Let go of all your meanings, let go of all your interpretations. And if you do that, just by doing that, you are looking with me. The Holy Spirit thought system cannot share his thought system with a mind that is identified with the egos or the opposition of that thought system. So once again, just be. And right now, even if it's for a moment, just being is being identified with the Holy Spirit thought system. And when a thought arises, it doesn't matter what it is, either because conditioning or because habit, which is about the same thing. Now we're doing something that we have never done before, or some of us may not have done before, is that instead of trying to analyze it, instead of trying to figure out what it means, instead of trying to figure it out, instead of trying to solve anything, we just rest in forgiveness. Forgiveness does absolutely nothing. Simply observe and judge us not. And that is choosing, which is not really a choice because you don't choose to be. Try choosing to be right now. Try to make that choice. It's impossible because you are already being. But through conditioning, it seems like we're making the choice of not being. That's why we say, I'm a human being, I'm a person, this is my name, this is who I am, this is what I do. You see, that takes effort. But the effortlessness in which we all rest is in beingness. And all we're doing now is that instead of practicing a meditation, we are the meditation. And now the meditation is reversed. Before, it seemed to be a practice that I do to try to steal the mind. Now the practice is I am already, and the meditation is observe how I find myself distracted. When I find myself distracted, and in that moment I realize I'm distracted, that's the meditation, you see, because I caught myself. And then what do? As the Course says, I need do nothing. We go back again to the space in which you rest. Before we started this meditation or this space, and after this space it seemed to be over and you go on with your life, beingness still is. And now the meditation will be pay attention how easily the mind distracts with all sorts of thoughts, either pleasurable ones or not pleasurable ones, concerns about a future, feeling bad about a past. But that is only taking place because the mind is identified with the individual. But if you rest in beingness, beingness is never disturbed by anything because beingness doesn't move. Thoughts move. Perception is what seems to move. But this space never does. And that is the invitation. So now for the remaining of the time that we're going to be in silence, which doesn't mean that you will not have thoughts, doesn't mean that you will not hear sounds. What it means is that for the remaining of the duration of this space, just look. That's all. When a thought knocks on the door, just don't open the door. That's all. Don't negotiate with it. Don't try to understand it because all of that feeds the individual, the seeming individual. We're not going to do anything here. We're just going to be. Because again, we cannot not be, even though it may appear that we are being something else, the me that I think I am. No. Just relax and rest in your beingness. Or I should say, or I should say, not in your beingness, rest in beingness. Beingness is not personal, it's universal.
Open your eyes and come back into the room. We have about 20 minutes left for sharing your reflections and your questions. If you'd like to share, raise your hand and I'll invite you to take yourself off mute. You can also use the electronic hand at the bottom of the screen. And if you'd like to share with confidentiality, put your message in the chat function at the bottom of the screen and I'll read it out. Who'd like to share? Kirsty.
Thanks, Dan. Thank you for that, Nick. The question that came up for me was you were quite clear about what to do with thoughts. You know, they come knocking, you just don't let them in. But could you talk about a little bit about what you do with feelings? When the feelings come up, what would you do? Say it's anger or grief or desire or shame or some just one of those feelings that comes up in meditation. What do you do with that?
That's a very good question, because the same thing. See, what's the difference between a thought or a feeling? Well, first of all, a thought is a passing cloud, and so is the feeling. What happened is the feeling seems to be more, it's felt, so to speak, right? But in the end, they're just the same thing. Feelings, they come and go. Now, pay attention, because this is very interesting. Most likely, let's say you talk about sadness, okay? Since you mentioned that word, or whatever, one of those feelings, whatever. For the most part, a thought comes up, right? My dog, you know, I lost my little dog when I was a kid. That's just a thought. That thought means nothing, because I'm pretty sure that everybody here has those sort of experiences. And a thought that comes to you, when you attach a meaning to it, that generates the feeling. Do you see? So in reality, if there's no meaning to the thought, the feeling wouldn't be there. But if it just so happens that a feeling shows up, take any meaning away from it. It's the same thing. You see? So we don't treat them as different. It's all the same. Because if the thought, let's say the thought of my little dog when I was a kid, you know, was lost. If that thought really was the cause of what you're feeling, then when that image shows up, we all should feel the same way. You see? In other words, let's use another example, the scenario. You see a car, I don't know, crashing or something like that. Or, I don't know, whatever you think of. That scene is just that, means nothing. If it's true that the scene has the power to cause someone to feel in a particular way, that implies that that same scene will have the same effect on everybody. But 5 people look at the very same scene. One feels angry, the other one is just like doesn't care, the other one laughs, the other one, you see? So it's all the same thing, whether it's a thought, whether it's a feeling. So in the contemplation we did today, if a thought comes up and triggers nothing, wonderful, leave it, that's just the way it is. If a feeling comes up, same thing, means absolutely nothing. Because again, the concern about feelings is that it puts us so in contact with our humanness, which is what we try to protect at any cost, thinking that that's who we are. And we're not negating it. All we're doing is remembering that nothing means anything, which is lesson number 1. Or chapter 14, which I like to quote a lot: when your peace is disturbed, meaning when you're projecting meaning onto something, because that's the reason why peace is disturbed, otherwise it would be just nothing. When peace is disturbed, remember that, say this: I don't know the meaning of anything, including this, therefore I do not know how to respond to it, And I will not allow my past, my judgment, you see, to be the past, to be the light that guides me now. So that's what we're doing, is looking. So if it's a thought, just it is. If it's a feeling, that's what it is. If I'm looking, it's fine. If I'm judging, then going back to your question, my job in that case would be to notice that I'm judging. I realize, okay, whatever I'm feeling, the mind is trying to tell me that I'm feeling like this because of, oh, wait a minute. I don't know the meaning of anything, including this. I'm just resting there. And then from that space, as you keep practicing, put it this way, resting in beingness, notice that the feelings, they go, like everything. Now, if it's a feeling that keeps holding on to us very strongly, it's very good to pay attention to see how the mind doesn't want to let go of that, because that is what I'm holding on to keep holding on to my sense of identity, which is in the end, that's what is being undone. See, all the questions, if you really look at them, they come from the person, not from beingness. Beingness doesn't ask questions because beingness is. But when there's an identification with the individual, that's when questions arises. So what do we do with the questions? Same thing. They arise from nothingness, and they will dissolve into nothingness if I don't pay attention to them. You see? That's why all we need to do, quote unquote, is nothing. You see? Feelings, sensation, scenarios. What I am is presence. And that's invitation. That's a practice now. That's again, I don't like to use the word practice, because then the individual begins to make it something about it. I'm just sort of pointing to this. This is it, right this moment. Whatever the mind is trying to tell you, whatever argument, just don't buy in it. And if you don't buy in it, then you realize that life is just a moving, it's a movement. But now you're not distracted by the movement, because beingness is where all movements seem to take place. A thought is a movement because it comes and goes. A feeling is a movement because it comes and goes. And in the end, we are a movement because we seem to come and we seem to go. But while we seem to be having a body, we can learn to live happily and at peace if we withdraw meaning onto anything. See? And that's how we rest in peace, which is not something we place on a tombstone. This is the opportunity that is being offered right now while we still have a body, until it's time to let go of this seeming experience. And then we don't return to the place that we never left from. We just never left from, or we believe we're somewhere else. You are at home in God, dreaming of exile, you see, but perfectly able or capable to awakening to reality. And reality is this. I don't know if I answered that question, but I guess that's the best I could do.
Dennis,
Thank you, Nick.
You're welcome.
Dennis, would you like to say something? Take yourself off mute. Dennis, are you there? You go.
Nick, thank you for that reminder of just to be that effortless effort. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Who'd like to share?
Mm-hmm. By the way, I'd like to share something with all of you. Oh, you have a question? Go for it.
Eunice, take yourself off mute.
Yes, I hope you can hear me all right. It's a bit noisy here. Yes, practicing without judgment, looking at the thoughts, Nick, which I've been doing for some time, trying to step back and just look at them without judgment. A peculiar thing started to happen a few months ago, in that another voice kind of kicked in that was commenting on the thoughts. So this voice would say, well, like for the last half hour, all your thoughts have been about the future. Or do you realise how many thoughts you've had about food in the last hour? And I had this little commentary going on. And I thought, wow, what's this? I've not only got these ridiculous thoughts, I've now got this voice, some giving me a summary of them as well. So I'm trying to step back from this as well, and just not judging this commentary that is going on about the kind of thoughts I've been having, picking in. And this is starting to subside now. But I was just interested in what your take would be on that.
Okay, I think I heard everything you said because it was a little tricky with what let's see. I'm gonna share this comment and let me see if I understood your question. You're talking about that thoughts, and then you have like another voice that is commenting on those thoughts. Is that what you're referring to? Okay, good. Okay, that other voice, guess what is it? Guess what it is, that other voice?
And another thought, or
You get it right in the nail. That's it. It's just first a thought, and then there's another thought that takes the position of a voice that says is commenting on this, and now you overlook that is just another thought. So it's like on the first level, you think that, okay, I got this, but then that thought that says I got this, it's a thought also. See? And now you don't try. This is very, very important because I know that words are very, they're limiting, but we're not trying to do anything here. So don't try to observe, because when you put yourself in a position of trying to observe, that is still a thought of an individual or something that thinks that is trying to observe. Are you making any effort right now to breathe?
no.
Breathing is happening. You see? Unless you find yourself having some sort of an anxiety attack, and that's when you bring the attention to the breathing. You see? So now the invitation is this. So it's observing. See? Right now, thoughts can come, that's fine. And you see one thought, that's one level, and then another layer comes in, but all the layers of thoughts are happening within beingness. If you rest in beingness, problem solved. Let them talk all they want. You see? But you
Oh, thank you, Nick. It's very helpful. Thank you.
welcome.
Who'd like to share?
Well, I like to share something.
Okay, go ahead.
I don't know if you remember the book that I wrote, What Happens When You Let God, the first one that I wrote back then, if anybody remember that or so, that I took out of the market because I wrote What Happened After Letting God, because I felt that first book, there's some things that I were not quite clear in the non-dual nature of A Course in Miracles, right? Well, the good news is that I rewrote the whole book again. Some chapters were taken out and a couple of chapters were added as well. And the book is available now. So if you go to my website, nickarandes.com, it's available there. And I'm also now in the process of turning into an audiobook. So it should be available in audiobook and in Kindle as well within the next week or so. But right now it's available. So it's if you ever had the first one, you're gonna feel a complete difference on this one. You're gonna feel it, you're gonna notice the difference. Not that the other one was wrong or whatever, because that's not the case. But I made a lot of emphasis. Number one, that the course is always talking to the mind that is dreaming the dream, not to the individual. And number two, that is a non-dual teaching. And again, if you feel the inspiration or you feel moved to get a copy of it, you'll experience it yourself and you'll see what you think. So anyway, I just wanted to say that. Anybody, any other question?
Teresa, would you like to share?
Be right there a minute, right? Be there.
Go ahead, Teresa. You're on mute, Teresa.
Thank you, Nick. That was lovely. And And congratulations on rewriting, and thank you. I wanted to, I laughed. I was so understood what Eunice was saying about the commentary, the commentary about the thinking. and I do that too, you know, and but then sometimes I think, oh, yes, I'm making a comment here, but I suddenly realize actually it's judging. You know, if I'm judging it, then I know it's not from that lovely one place, because in that beingness, there isn't that judgment. So just that's what it reminded me of when Eunice was sharing. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Can I ask a question, Nick?
Sure.
Sorry, I can't find my raised hand.
Okay,
Oh,
go ahead,
but
Jim.
anyway, I'll certainly buy your new book, Nick. I didn't know you'd done a revision, because I've studied quite a lot of non-dual teaching in my life as well. And one thing that seems to differentiate the course from other non-dual teachings is the idea that Earth is a total mistake, that we're here because we've done something in the way of made a silly mistake, and we're here until we go back to recognizing that. My own experience is that we can have a blissful life on Earth with the real mind, and Buddhism says this is a precious human life, and Advaita Vedanta says a human life is difficult to attain. So it's supposed to be a prize in some circles of Advaita, but I've not found that in the course. What is your take on that, please, Nick?
Well, first of all, you have to understand that it's very, very simple, and there's a difference between it's not even a recognition, because who would be recognizing it? But within the limitation of language, there's a difference between. I'm going to use Buddhism, for example. There's a difference between Buddha, who became conscious, and those who follow him, what they are interpreting. Same thing with Jesus. There's a difference between Jesus, who is the example of what we are, but it seems to have taken, just like the Buddha, or whoever you want to, that taken the form, who have the experience. And again, they don't have an experience because, as Ramana Maharshi used to say, the you have to be removed so that the you can remain. In other words, when you are beingness. Let's say you're sleeping, right? That's you. Just for the sake of this example, while you're sleeping, that's what you are. But when you begin to dream, now you're dreaming that you are that in the dream. Does that make sense? So that you has to be removed, right? In order for the you, which is the one dreaming the dream, remains. So right now, we are. You, me, everything is the same. Let's use this word because I don't have any better one. Energy, okay? Not even energy, because energy can be transformed. So technically, that's still a dual thing, but for the sake of language, we are energy. You and me are the same energy, except when the energy identifies with different or seeming parts of itself. In this case, you as a body, me as a body. If I let go of the body and you let go of the body, then you and I are one, you see? But as bodies, it seems as though we are different. So, A Course in Miracles points exactly in that direction when it says, all that there is God and there's nothing else. Nothing can happen that is not God. That's all there is to it. What else could be? However, within all there is, it seems as though a tiny mad idea, which is a thought of separation, and that tiny mad idea, it seems to have projected a world of effects, you see? And what the Course in Miracles is saying is that, according to my understanding, God is all there is. God has nothing, has no clue what's going on in here. However, That tiny mad idea seems to be divided into two thought systems, which is the Holy Spirit and which is the ego. The ego is a thought system that is invented by that very same mind. The Holy Spirit is a correction to that thought. So therefore, notice that I'm not asking you to do anything, because if I were to ask you to do anything, any practice would have to involve a you who believe that is making a practice. And the invitation is to simply be, and in that beingness, because that's all there is, then trust that the Holy Spirit is doing the work. And the consequence of that, because there's no identification with the person, while you're still living in the world or seeming living in the world, is that you're going to be living, as the course says in lesson 155, you live in the world, but not of the world. You see, I still live in the world. I still write books and do all these kinds of things, but the mentality is different. And that's something you cannot explain. You just have to live. That's why the course points to. That's why the great example that I use is that we can talk all we want about the taste of sugarcane. It's not going to help us. You see? And everybody's going to give me their opinion about how sugarcane tastes. I can say this, look, with words, all I can say is walk 2 blocks, go to that sugarcane, break a sugarcane and bite on it. That's all I can do with words, not trying to explain how it tastes. You see? So this is what we're doing here in beingness. You see? What the Buddhists say, what the Advaita says, again, there's a difference between truth and the interpretation of it. And whoever is interpreting it must be truth, because truth is, God is, love is. So I don't get involved in all different interpretations. I simply rest in beingness. And in that resting in beingness, you do have the direct experience. And this is something that I'm not asking you to believe me, because it wouldn't make any sense. I'm asking you to put it into practice, which is what the Course says all the time. Jesus says very clearly, just let go of everything. That's all that is asked of you to do, nothing else. The resistance, however, is the mind trying to understand, because what is behind that is that I don't want to disappear. I want to still holding on to this body. This is who I am. I'm afraid of disappearing, because it believes that if it disappears, it dies. But here's the joke about it. How could it possibly be that which was never born can die? But as long as you believe you're a body, you will believe in death. You see? And here the Holy Spirit says, you don't have to worry about any of that. Okay? What I'm giving you is the opportunity to be at peace while you're still holding on to the body, so you can have what is referred to as a happy dream. Happy dream have nothing to do with things going in a particular way. Happy dreams means that you're conscious that nothing is happening because you're resting in beingness. You see, with the invitation here, no matter what's going on in your world, it doesn't matter. Beingness is. So if you remain there, if that's all there is to it, then questions immediately goes out the window. They mean nothing, because you're resting in beingness. And you move through the world like everybody else, but with an attitude, like the Course says, your eyes are, your forehead is serene. Why? Because what makes the forehead serene is the thoughts, the absence of judgment of thoughts. The judgment of the thoughts is what makes the forehead, like this. But when the absence of that, then that's where it's pointing to. And the experience is what the Course is pointing to. It's pointing to an experience in that sense. So whatever you hear about the Advaita or whatever the case may be, it doesn't matter, whatever. I don't pay attention to any of it. I just simply, I'm not discarding or anything. I'm simply saying that I just rest in beingness, because that is what gives me the experience of realizing that there's a way of living in a world that is not of it. And I had it through all the time. I don't know if many of you knew, I was operated, my prostate was operated in November of December for prostate cancer. It was operated and everything. And I was very happy throughout the hospital. Nothing happened. And if it was my time to go, it's my time to go. It doesn't matter. But that gave me the direct experience that I can be at peace no matter what. I'm not saying that I'm perfect. I'm not saying that I'm enlightened, but I'm saying that what I'm sharing with you is not secondhand information from the course. What I'm sharing with you is my direct experience, and the simplicity of this is simply, okay, nothing means anything. Life is. And if something comes up, and if a movement were to come up, because it does, that's what happens in the world of illusion, or whatever the case may be, I do exactly what I shared with Christy, nothing else, you know? And sometimes you feel one way, sometimes the body feels the other way, but it doesn't matter. It's just all the same thing, you know, it's the same, it's all the same thing. As long as you don't project meaning onto anything, you just rest in peace. And that is what my life is about, nothing else. And again, I still do things, I write books, I do all that kind of stuff, but nothing means anything. You see?
Okay, Nick, we've come to the end of our time together. Thank you. That was wonderful. And take yourself off mute and show your appreciation to Nick.
Thank you, Nick.
Thank you, Nick.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Nick. Fabulous.
Thank you, Nick.
Brilliant.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Fantastic,
Thank you.
Nick.
Bye,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Wonderful.
Wonderful.
Bye.